Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stronghold podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, please don't forget that you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Apple, you can find it on Google Podcasts, on YouTube, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And I'm here with Kai Xiong Sim, the main event from Lion City Championship. And also, dude, I called your last two fights. You were also had a super fight on the SGI, the Singapore Grappling Invitational. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm good.
How you doing? Look at that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got the crazy new setup here. Last week it failed with Major on the podcast for whatever reason. I'm sorry, guys. We lost the video on that podcast. We have no idea what happened. Everything was good. We thought it was fine. And then as soon as we tried to open the file for whatever reason, it wouldn't work. That's because we got this crazy new setup over here. And Jake, the producer, is loving it. What's up, Jake?
No, I'm just having a panic attack while trying to make this new setup work.
I
But
mean,
all good.
Keep that on you, dude. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to zoom. Look at wow. Look at that. You want to know what our setup looks like?
Too much
That's
stuff.
what
Too
that
much
shit
stuff.
looks like. Pretty sick, dude. I'm gonna get real deep, and then I'll give you a normal one. I don't want to see your pores.
It's good.
Okay. So, Kai Xiong, man, how are you feeling after the fight, dude?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. Just trying to chill out a little bit. Like, I'm trying to tone down my training schedule a little bit, just try to recover from nagging injuries here and there from the camp. Yeah.
How long did you do? How long did you do the training camp for?
Actually, I feel like this entire half a year was pretty much a training camp because it was just one thing after the other, you know. Like, I had surgery in March.
Oh shit! What did you have surgery on?
My foot. So I had a Liz Frank injury from somebody, like forward rolling onto my foot. Yeah, so I was on crutches for a couple of months, and then I just hopped right back into it. So I had to kind of get used to moving on 2 feet again and stuff like that. And then I was either being a training partner or training for my own fights, you know. So I was, to start off after the surgery, I was training a lot with Oz because he's preparing for the national trials, but that didn't go through. And then after that, it was just my own. And from there, I had the SGI. I did a boxing sparring match as well.
You did?
In between the fights, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right on.
It kind of sucked because, as in, it was pretty tiring because it was 1 week after SGI.
Oh,
like
so
the following
SG,
weekend.
so you've done like 3 in the span of 2 or 3 months or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
What was SGI? What was the date for that?
I want to say mid-September or so.
Yeah,
I think
so
something like that. Yeah.
You've been really active recently, then.
What's
What's that, Jake? You have a second? Can you pull up the Liz Frank injury? I hear that one's pretty brutal.
It was really painful. Like, my foot just blew up for a bit. Yeah. So you can see the scar here actually.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. It's so I think my foot was like
Is it a ligament? Is that? What
yeah, it's a ligament in the midfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at this because I've heard a few fighters talk about this. I think it's a pretty common injury, the Liz Frank injury. It happened when you were sparring. What, did you get
it
knee
was,
or an elbow on the top of the foot, or was it just
actually,
planting?
It was we were rolling. Yeah, it kind of sucks because it's like it was the last round and I wasn't even supposed to be going. But somebody was like, "Hey, you want to jump in?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay,
always
okay."
how it happens,
yeah, right.
dude.
Then I went for a guillotine and my friend tried to forward roll out of it, so it just ended up like boom right on my foot.
That's a rookie mistake,
Yeah.
man. Forward rolling through a guillotine.
I have the video of me rolling with it, and then you can hear me just scream in the background like, "Ah, fuck yeah."
Yeah, those ligaments, ladies and gentlemen, they're brutal if you tear those. Can you throw up there and let's okay, so you got the picture. Can you see find the Google search it? I want to know what the actual like Wikipedia is for what a Liz Frank injury is, because I hear people talk about this injury all the time. It's one of the pretty common one amongst fighters. And so yeah, that's exactly where your scar is, right there on your foot.
Pretty much.
It's a pretty gnarly scar, dude, even still.
Yeah, I went to Google the actual procedure that they did. It's called a tightrope surgery. It's so freaky because they put like this titanium ropes in between. So I actually have 2 scars, so one here and then one on the side.
Oh yeah.
So they kind of fucking
God.
yeah. I don't know what the fuck they do. They just like shake that.
Gut you
that
like a
shit.
fish, man.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it blew up after the surgery. Also, it was like really swollen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What do you got there, Jake? What do you got there, Jake, on that Liz Frank injury? I want to know what this thing. Jake's got a lot of new things to play with. A lot of things to play with. Can you read that for me?
So we have Liz Frank joint injury. It's a type of injury to the bone or ligament or both in the middle part of your foot. In a Liz Frank joint injury, there is usually damage to the cartilage covering these bones. In the middle region of your foot, midfoot, a cluster of small bones form an arch.
So how did it happen when he forward rolled on a guillotine? Like, what happened to your foot actually in the process of the roll? Did it like bend or twist or?
So pretty much, right? So I think so. Normally, what happens is when people go for that, I try to hit the mounted guillotine. So like from close guard, right?
Try to
when
roll
you should
through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was basing my foot like you mind if I move over from the mic?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's like this way.
Oh yeah, up
right?
on your toes.
So he falls over and his ass just then bang.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
And I just immediately felt it. It just blew up, and then I was just out for a really long time. And I was a dumbass about it also. So it happened like end January, and you know how fighters are, right? Like so stubborn. I was like, I think nothing's wrong. I just need a rest date. So I didn't actually get the surgery until like March. So just
Wait, what was the
walking
injury?
end January.
Oh shit! So
Yeah,
you just
so
you just broed through it.
Pretty much, I was in denial for a bit. Like I went to like one specialist first. He told me, oh, it's probably just a strain, but it wasn't getting better after like so long. So I was like, I decided to get a second opinion, and then he's like, yeah, you need surgery for this.
Oh shit, man.
So-
And then how long did you take off after the surgery?
So surgery was like start of March, and then probably got back into it May or June, something like that. Yeah, but I
Okay,
started.
that's not too bad.
Mhm,
That's
yeah.
not too bad. I thought it would be one of those longer ones, like 6 months or a year or something, because usually those ligaments are pretty brutal. But you've had a hectic schedule toward the end of the year because you had Singapore Grappling Invitational, and then a week after that you did a boxing thing.
The Legends sparring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just had your fight. What was it 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, pretty much,
3
pretty
weeks
much.
ago, something like that. So you're just taking a little time off, let
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the body
now-
heal.
Yeah, a little bit. Just being a training partner more than anything, cause might have some teammates that are gonna fight soon, but I don't think I'm supposed to say out like officially. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me after the
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
dude.
Unofficially.
Yeah, tell me later, man. That's
Yeah.
sick. I mean, you guys got a great squad between you and Tiffany Teo and Oz, and I mean, Oz just won the tournament, and then you also competed on that, and obviously Tiff's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
So you guys got a good little crew. I see Fuzz is training with you guys a lot still, and yeah, so you got a fucking sweet little crew, man. So what was the feeling like? Because this was your first fight since the pandemic began, right? Most recently.
Yeah, yeah. Like the last time I fought pro MMA was like 2 years ago, 2019.
Did you feel like, did you feel any jitters? Did you feel like, oh shit, here we go again? Like, did it feel like the feeling new again?
Mhm. Yeah, I was nervous as fuck, man. Like, it's hard to describe, you know. Like, I just worried like half the time, and I feel like there was
Anxious,
a bit of
right?
Yeah,
Anxiety.
exactly. There was a bit of added pressure also because I think everybody expected me to win.
They did.
Yeah.
They did, including me.
But it's one of those things where like everybody thinks you're gonna win except yourself, you know. As in,
Yeah. You still have the doubts, right?
yeah, exactly. Like you still have that confidence, but you still have the doubts as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the doubts
So-
are a crazy thing with fighters. People don't realize it because it's an interesting parallel because of course when you train and you are get skilled and you become very skilled, you believe in yourself, but that belief only goes to a certain point because of course the potential that you lose still exists, right? And then it's how managing that and trying to put on the face. Like Charmaine was always like when she would compete, she hasn't fought yet, and fighting is a different animal, but she's always like, oh, everybody looks so confident. Everybody looks so confident. I feel so scared. I'm like, yeah, everybody feels that.
Exactly. Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
still feels that. By the way, in case you're listening to this and you don't know, we're playing the mystery beer game. We got one of these things. One of my students that trains with me gave me this box of 25 different beers, and apparently it's a thing in Singapore. A lot of people knew what it was. I'd never heard of this before, but every beer or every day of the month up until Christmas is a new beer. And he gave me a whole box of these, so I got 25, like everyone's different craft beer. And we decided for the podcast that it would be wise to just randomly grab one out of a bag. So, Kai Xiong, you got the dirty side, man. You got a 6% right there. Yeah, I got a 7%. Jake, you got the light, dude.
I looked out this time. I only got a 5.5.
Let's see who gets the 10%.
Yeah, there's a 10% hidden in there, and whoever's got that one is going to be in for a surprise. So we'll see how sloppy this thing gets. So, Kai Xiong, I want to go back to what we were talking about the combination of like confidence and doubt that you have when you fight. What was like, and I've told this story on the podcast enough times, but I remember my first fight, my first pro fight. Amateur was okay. I felt a little safer, you know what I mean? But my first pro fight, I got the fight or flight reaction.
Oh shit.
Right, like I was literally like, I need to jump out the fucking window. I need to go to the bathroom, jump out of this window, change my name, like never, never show my face again. Of course, you go through the fight, but I literally was like, oh shit, I got to get the fuck out of here. And then I just took a few breaths, relaxed, and then you managed to get through it. What was your like most anxious or like most fear-inducing moment? Do you remember it?
Let me think. I would say actually, of course, it's kind of ironic, but my first and only loss during my amateur days. So I fought Benedict Ang.
Oh yeah,
It was my third amateur fight, I think.
he's way bigger than you.
Yeah,
too.
he was way bigger. I had no business being in that weight class. I was like, I mean,
He's like my weight.
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
70 plus kilos probably.
I didn't cut any weight for that also. Yeah, but
He must have. What weight did you fight at? Feather or?
feather. Yeah, I'm sure I was like 66 the day off. I'm pretty sure he cut weight, but I mean I don't know. I guess so. He looked a lot bigger during the fight as well. But yeah, I remember being backstage and I don't know. I was just like a lot of negative thoughts and processes. Like I just kept focusing on like what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And like I could tell that I was like extremely nervous because I started like dry heaving and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember Major was there also, and I was like, I just said to him like, "Hey man, I'm like extra nervous," and yeah, it just played out how it did. But
How did it play out? If you don't mind
I
asking?
lost by decision.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but yeah, a lot of my grappling wasn't as refined back then. I think so. Just got taken down, controlled for all 3 rounds. I guess. Yeah. But that being said, though, it was kind of weird because like I felt all that, but I still thought I did pretty okay. It's just he's just more experienced and more technical back then. But yeah.
I mean, at least you went through it. You didn't get hurt. You didn't get like fucked up or anything. That's the worst case scenario. I mean, so if you're listening to this and you're thinking about fighting, you're hearing 2 professional fighters talking about literally wanting to jump out the window and the other one dry heaving out of like fear before the fight. And that honestly is the way that it goes. You really have to control the emotions, hey? And the thing is, like, as you get more and more experience, you do get more confident. The doubt's still there, but the voice is not quite as loud. As you get more and more experience, you start to understand what it is, and you get in control of that anxiousness and that anxiety, especially when you're competing regularly. But when you take a big break, like you mentioned earlier, then you come back, it's like, oh shit, here we go, this fucking feeling again.
Yeah, man. I feel like the emotions never go away. It's just you get better at controlling it. Or like you know what to focus on and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you focus on what you can do, right? Because, but it takes experience to get to that point. Because, and even the the BJJ people, the wrestlers, they also feel it a little bit. It's definitely lesser because you're not like the potential of you getting knocked unconscious isn't there. Like accidents can still happen and you can get hurt and all that kind of stuff, but not to the same degree of like eating a head kick or something like that.
Yeah, I hate to shit on other combat sports, but like unless you've done MMA, like you don't know what we're really talking about. Like that anxiety, like it's just 2 different leagues. Like
It's so different.
It's so different.
You can't even compare. I mean, you do get a small dose of it with other combat, with grappling, but it's like an order of magnitude lesser, right? I mean, it's just the first time that you could potentially get knocked out, that shit is different. And you're like, oh, man, it makes you doubt, and then that creeps in, and then, like I say, you start to be able to compartmentalize it and understand that fear and know what it is. But it is literally like some gladiator shit, right? I mean, luckily, we're not dealing with swords and all of that kind of stuff, but the reality is, I mean, people die fighting every year. You always have stories, always hear stories about it. Someone actually just died in a fight, I think within the last 6 months or something.
Was it the
the
boxing?
boxer?
The
boxer.
yeah.
Jake, can you find that boxer dies 2021 or 2022 or something like that? I mean, so this just goes to show you that you really can't mess around with this. And sometimes you get, like even me as a coach, I get some guys doing like amateur boxing or amateur kickboxing or something like that, and they're not training as much as I want them to, and they sort of take it as which is the thing in Asia. I see people like this. Have you ever been to like Ultimate Beatdown or any of these smaller? Did you fight it at Ultimate
I
Beatdown?
fought UBE once before.
So you know what that is like, right? Like some of these dudes, they literally smoking a cigarette in the park. Like they look like they might take a shot of whiskey before they go in. Like they're coming straight off the streets and just totally willing to go in there and fight. And I'm like, wow. I mean, they are massively underestimating the potential damage that can happen here. Like and some of them do get knocked out and stuff, and they're like, oh, it's just one time. I'm like, yeah, but you can't quantify it like that.
Yeah, but they're the same people who are also fighting in a bar in a weekend without a medic and any rules. So
Which I don't recommend that either, right? Like that's not a good move either. Did you manage to find that, Jake?
Depressingly, there are several, so let's not go into it.
Okay.
Oh, that sucks actually.
Yeah, I mean, it is the reality of what it is, right? So you really got to take it seriously, and you got to be well trained. And the most common thing that I see is people not training their defense properly. It's like you see people hit the pads, and you see people spar like they hit the pads like they're just throwing. But you really have got to constantly be working on your checking and your defense and your head movement and your parries, and like all the defensive movements are just the most important because that is what keeps you safe. And then you look at somebody like Floyd Mayweather, like the best of all time. Dude never got hit, clear as a bell. Like that's really what you should do. You should just practice mastering your defense. And I've gone on ad nauseum about this, but did you take a look at the Lion City fights?
I watched a couple, yeah, but
So I asked Major this, and he was kind of being a little PC on it. Pissed me off a little bit. He wouldn't say anything about like what he saw that he would like to see people improve on it. And I thought it was like the wrestling defense and the defense on the ground. People learning how to get up. You know, you see a lot of people like pulling guard and not wrestling up to their feet, but instead like being content, fighting off their back. And did you go through that? What was the first martial art you did?
I actually started with everything.
Oh, so
Like,
you MMA
yeah.
from day one.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of know what's up, right? But there must have been a point where you realized that, like, for example, MMA grappling is so different than like
Oh.
slap hands, fist bump, gi, jiu-jitsu.
Oh, 100%. Like from the start already, like it's totally different when there's strikes involved. I feel like the pace is different, the control is different, the fine motor skill and the way you move totally changes. Yeah.
And then something like, like being in the mount, right? Like if you're in the mount in jiu-jitsu class, like, and then you're in the mount in a fight, or you're being mounted in a fight, whoa, that is a different animal. When those motherfucking elbows can come down on you and the punches. And,
You might have taught me how to go from if I'm trapped in mount to single leg X. So then I'd let people mount me, which is fine in jiu-jitsu, but yeah, in MMA seems a terrible idea.
No, it's actually good to let people mount you in training because the most important thing is you learn how to get the fuck out of there. I say this all the time with jiu-jitsu, and it's really, I mean, other sports are like this, but it's really one of those few sports where anytime you lose, you win. And what I mean by that is, anytime you're in a jiu-jitsu class, you're doing your MMA, you're doing whatever, if somebody passes your guard, good. Guess what? You get to work your side control escape. Somebody mounts you, guess what? You got to get out of there. Someone takes your back, good. That is like the most important discipline is to learn how to escape. Even from, if you take jiu-jitsu from its purest form, right, and like Vale Tudo, self-defense, it's the most important thing is how do you get somebody like bigger and stronger than you off of you if they're on top of you. Man, that is so massively underrepresented in jiu-jitsu. I can't understand for the life of me why they don't teach people how to stand up. Instead of just getting back to guard. Okay, well, like, you can get back to guard, you can hip escape, and you can close your guard, but then you're closing that guy on top of you. And because they're not worried about the threat of the strikes, but I don't understand why people don't teach you if somebody throws your legs to the side, Toriando or whatever, to pass to the side control, why at least 10% of the time you're not immediately going to turtle and fighting the hands and working your way up to your feet.
I think that's like a problem with like specified rule sets, right? Like because they want to play to the rules so much, they forget like the actual function of jiu-jitsu, which is at its core is kind of defending yourself. So it becomes like a whole sporting thing. People get comfortable where they shouldn't be, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But you can't get these guys to wrestle. This is my problem. I make people wrestle in my jiu-jitsu class. They don't come back. They're like, oh, I literally had a guy, it was maybe 6 months ago, because he came to the MMA class, and at certain points in the MMA, we're working like this thing. At certain points, we're doing like jiu-jitsu with strikes, and then at certain points, we're wrestling. And he literally came up to me, and he's like, so are we going to be wrestling today? And I'm like, yep, he didn't stay. He just
Oh, shit.
And I was like, what? Come on, man. This is a really important thing to learn. And, we aren't killing each other. We're not like broing down and getting crazy, but it's just so important to learn how to stand up. And then that shit where you start your rolls always on your knees, I mean, just fucking kill me, right? Man, at least I get it sometimes, right? The mat's busy. You got a lot of people in the gym or something like that. Okay, of course you start down. But, I mean, at least a certain percentage of the time, 20, 30% minimum, you need to be starting your matches on your feet. You got to learn how to sprawl. You got to learn how to defend a takedown, push people's heads into the mat, get up to your feet, all that kind of stuff. And, of course, I know Major is like me, and he makes you guys do that, right? This is why all of you guys have sick wrestling.
Yeah.
I remember the last time you came in to train, you hit me with the single leg, right? And you ran the pipe on me so hard, and you ran the pipe way harder than any of my guys can run the pipe on me. And I literally was like, I do this thing where I'm just like bouncing around on my feet with like zero threat, and you got me in the single leg, and I'm bouncing around, and you fucking put my ass on the ground. I was like, oh shit! I actually got to wrestle up from here because I'm not used to like the guys being able to do it, but Major. We've talked about it on this podcast tons of times. He makes you guys, like, you scramble until you're up to your feet or until you're on top. And that's really important with actual MMA training. And for you, you've been training MMA since the very beginning. So I feel like a lot of the people that you probably will fight, especially in Asia, until you get to a bigger show, will probably train all of the martial arts in isolation, which gives you a massive advantage, right? I mean, what do you feel the amount of is like the right amount of training to do as a whole, like MMA as a whole, and then in individual training, like single disciplines, like jiu-jitsu, and then you go to your striking or your wrestling classes?
It's kind of a tough one to answer. I think if your focus is MMA, like every day you should at least have one session that blends it all together. Because like you said, it's very different when it's compartmentalized. But I think with the individual martial arts, that's more for like. So I'll give you an example, right? So like if you're doing like nogi, specifically nogi, the function of that would be more as a training accessory to sharpen submissions, for example. Because sometimes in MMA scrambles, with like MMA grappling, it's so difficult to get that fine that precise technique to say finish a choke, right? Because it's the pace is so much faster. And then similar with like your stand up, like if you're doing kickboxing, sometimes it's good to do like just kickboxing alone, just to kind of one is get comfortable seeing punches and stuff like that, and like really throwing with proper form technique, So I feel like a little bit of each is good, but it shouldn't be your main focus to stick to one particularly. So at the end of the day, you have to remember how does it translate. Because if you do specific stuff, I feel like you tend to develop bad habits. If you, with like specific
You have to do isolation.
In isolation, you tend to get bad habits if you like do it over time. When you add in like other variables in MMA.
Yeah, I feel like, and another one that's really common is people, especially like when they're only doing nogi. The thing with nogi is like you play top or bottom, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so much harder to hold people down when they're trying to stand up than if they're trying to sweep you. Like like in jiu-jitsu, like one person takes the top position, one person takes the bottom position, and pretty much the sole goal of the person on bottom is to either submit you or to sweep you. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, if the person's only objective is to stand up, like they're not just chilling on their back. It's so much harder to actually keep them there, right? And this is another big hurdle that like young MMA fighters have to do, is like actually making sure that they keep you on the ground. Because so often, if you get a good guy, they post on the hips, they push the head, technical stand up, turn, fight the hands, get up to their feet. It's actually really hard to hold people down. And that is completely lost in like modern sport jiu-jitsu, where the whole objective is to try to sweep somebody. And then it's even dumber still in like in gi jiu-jitsu, where it only counts for points if you sweep from the guard. Mm-hmm. I mean, that shit is so pointless. At least in ADCC, like top to bottom is still a sweep, right? It's a reversal, they call it. But, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't understand the difference, in like, let's say we're doing IBJJF rules. If I want to sweep somebody, I have to have the guard, right? It's part of the thing. So if I try to, okay, that's fine. So, I have to use my legs to sweep you. So, for example, if I'm in the bottom side control and I bridge you over, that doesn't count for any points, even though it's a complete shift of top to bottom.
Like you get the advantageous position.
I mean, it's massive, right? It's literally bottom side control, which is a terrible position, to top side control. You score no points from that because it doesn't come from the guard. Do I need to touch this again?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good? Just double. Okay, we're good. Is it not? Do I need to push record again?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. There it is. Maybe. Oh, fuck.
Hey.
Okay, we got it back. Yeah. So yeah, and actually Major talks to me about this because he's putting it lightly. He's getting older, right? And he tells me all the time. He's like, he tries to, he's going with the young guys like you and just holding you guys down. Because when your whole objective is to get up to your feet, it's damn hard to hold these young guys and just actually keep them in place if they're not just like trying to work their jiu-jitsu from the bottom. Like, how much do you prioritize, like, wrestling up from the bottom, standing up, or, like, sweeping from the bottom? Like, what's the ratio? In an ideal world, if somebody takes you down, how much time are you spending trying to sweep them? How much time are you spending trying to get back up to your feet?
Are we talking, like, in nogi, or are we talking, like, in MMA?
MMA.
MMA, that's... Actually, I'd say 100%. Like, that's my top priority right there. Yeah.
Get up or sweep?
Get up.
Get up. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's a lot easier to get up than to sweep somebody, especially if they're much heavier. Like my training partners now, they always bitch. They always bitch about me getting up, because once they get me down, like I'm never trying to stay there for more than 3 seconds. I like what my old coach Emilio used to say to me, because he was talking about like when somebody takes you down in MMA, right? He always says like, hey, you gotta be like a dog that's held down. You know what a dog does when it's held down? It spazzes the fuck out. Right? Like you can't just settle. In other words, like you can't just settle there. You gotta get the fuck up. Yeah.
It's true because And again, especially like the moment you're taken down, there's a period of time when they don't actually have control of you yet.
Yeah.
And that is where the window of opportunity comes. Once you like close your guard or they settle on top of you or they half guard, they get chest to chest, at that point you're done. It's so much harder to actually get up to your feet once the scramble has stopped and they've established some form of control, right? But in the moment, like bodies are falling, like I'm trying to double leg you, your butt's hitting, and I'm trying to do whatever. In that moment, potential for escape exists. But as soon as like control is seized, it's just completely gone.
Yeah, I know what I mean. Like that one moment is like the hardest. It's like pretty much almost who wants it more, because I feel like it's just as hard for both guys. One to get up, one to keep them
Establish
down.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's that moment when you got to fight the hardest. Because once they settle on top of you, wow, now it's so much harder. Then you got to like maybe turn your back, right? That's might be your only option. Like in the scramble, there's a bunch of different safer ways you can get up because they haven't established control. But like let's say that they actually manage to get on top of you and establish control. Well, then, if they pass to the side and they get chest on chest and hug your neck,
Ooh, that's...
or they mount you and they force you to turn the back, because you know how it is. As soon as somebody mounts you and you see that hand go up, you're like, oh shit! You have to turn your back, right? Otherwise, you're just getting elbowed in the eye socket.
Yeah, that's not fun.
That is not fun, and that's why people turn the back. Like the mount in MMA is just a motherfucker. That is brutal, man. Like especially when you can't escape. You know what it's like to be mounted and you're not moving. That guy can just take their time and do what they want, and then if they can start to punch you, like we have a black belt at Stronghold, who's one of the owners, Sean. He's got one of these fat fucking mounts. Like he feels like he weighs 100 kilos. I let him mount me one time, like 6 years ago as a brown belt, and I was like, never again. Because normally I can still escape mounts, right? But this guy, he's just got hips that are like doesn't even make sense how heavy he can be.
His hips are made out of concrete or something.
It doesn't even
That's
make sense,
the only
right?
explanation.
He's like 80 kilos. He's not that much bigger than me, maybe like 5 kilos or something. But he knows exactly how to distribute his weight, and like you bridge and he rides you and adjusts to the way that you're trying to escape, and it's just like, oh no, if this dude could throw punches right now, this would be bad.
Yeah,
This
it's,
would be bad
it's
news.
terrible when somebody knows how to distribute their weight, like a Shinya.
Oh yeah.
Shinya's so heavy on top. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
We're talking about Shinya Synergy?
Yes, Shinya Synergy.
Yeah. Major talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
He was actually the first guy I ever competed against in Singapore.
Oh.
Like
Oh.
eight years ago or something like that. There's an old video of in my Facebook of us competing together in the gi, like 2013 or something like that. It was my first ever competition in Singapore. That's how long. Like 9 years ago maybe or something like that. Back when we were both purple belts. That's how old me and that dude go back. Actually, Major too. I never competed with Major in a competition or anything, but I remember him saying like we all went through purple, brown, black, all the same time. That guy's an OG. I'm actually going to see him tomorrow because tomorrow's the little competition we got between the three schools. It's going to be fun. Yeah. We're just going to get drunk and full. I'm supposed.
Fun for you, not fun for all your students competing. But never mind.
After it will be fun.
Yeah.
After they'll enjoy it, because we'll just have some drinks, have some rolls. You know what I mean? Afterward, it'll be fun. But you got the OGs in Singapore, the guys that have been around for a long time. He's been around for ages. And I'm actually supposed to referee a match tomorrow. I don't even know the rules. I've reffed ADCC rules before, but it's been since like a year or two before the pandemic. So maybe like 3 or 4 years since I've reffed the rules, and like it's changed a lot. And I'm just gonna anytime something happens, I'm gonna look at Shinya and be like, what do I do? Because he's like the longest tenured ref in Singapore, I think. He's probably reffed a bunch of your matches, right? How many jiu-jitsu matches do you reckon you've done?
Actually, I feel like I've done less than the average jiu-jitsu guy. I think somewhere between 10 to 15 at most.
What about MMA fights, including the amateurs?
MMA. So I'm 3-0 as a pro and 7-1 as an amateur, so that makes 11.
Oh, that's nice.
11 MMA fights, yeah.
You're starting to get starting to get a little fucking experience in you, dude.
Yeah.
So what's the next step after the fight that you had a couple weeks ago? Like, obviously, take some time now. Like heal up. You need to do that. What's after that?
Over the horizon, I guess the next possible thing was probably the next Lion City. Alvin was telling me it might be in March or something. So hopefully, if things open up a little bit better, maybe we can fly some opponents in. That might be cool.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Bring somebody from Malaysia or Thailand or Philippines.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the jiu-jitsu competition in Singapore used to look like and the MMA fight? It
Those
was
were the
so
days.
nice.
Yeah, so
People would
nice.
come in. They were awesome. You get to meet all these people. People from Tiger Muay Thai would come in. And
Yeah.
it was just so much nicer. Now it's just... I mean, it's still nice that the scene is able to produce local people. Like, they had 9 fights. I didn't think Alvin would ever be able to get 9 people to commit to a fight within Singapore, right? but they managed to do it. I think he said March would be the next one, right? Yeah, looking forward to that. And then, so I know you mentioned after the Singapore Grappling Invitational that your end goal is the UFC. So what do you think you'd have to do to get there? Like 10-0 maybe, something in that neighborhood?
Yeah, roughly around that range. But I think it's a tricky balance, right, between having a good record and making yourself known. So I suppose the other end of it would be to get a bigger presence on social media, since that's like the newest way to get anywhere these days, you know.
How many fights did Royston have when he got signed to the UFC? Can you pull up Royston Wee on the thing? Let's take a look.
I think he was like 2 or 3-0.
That's it? Was it that little? I mean, the thing is, the UFC's trying to get a bigger presence in Asia, like they do, and they come to Singapore. I mean, I went to see Ben Askren and Damian Maia, right?
Ooh, yeah, I remember
So
that.
Damian Maia came and trained in my gym. It
In the
was fucking
worst
sick.
kickboxing match ever.
Yeah. Until Damian Maia choked him.
Yeah.
Jake's daughter took a picture with Damian Maia. It was like such a cute moment because Damian Maia came in. I didn't want to tell a bunch of people because he was like, don't make a big deal out of it or whatever. But I told Jake, and then he came in. He brought his daughter, and she was just like she looked terrified of this dude. And they took a picture together.
Yeah, I can't say enough. The nicest guy ever. She was getting ready for her first ever jiu-jitsu tournament, and Damien Maia's giving her advice to a 4-year-old.
Yeah, and we were like, so how do you deal with your kids? He was like, oh, my kids they don't do jiu-jitsu. They don't know. And I'm like, really? You don't just make your kids go in and do it? But my point is that they do shows in Singapore quite regularly. I mean, as regularly as what was that?
I think the
light's
light
gone.
went on.
Oh, all right.
But it's still pretty bright though, actually. Like,
Oh, yeah, because the other one is doing the work. Okay, cool. Yeah, so did you find that? Royston Wee?
I'm trying to find out when he. Oh, here we go.
How
So
many
he had
fights
he
before
had 2 pro fights. Then I'm sorry, 2 pro fights, and then he went to the UFC. According to Wikipedia, I'll bring it up.
Oh, damn, that's really little.
Oh, I can't zoom on this thing. But
was it like regional shows or?
Yeah, what was it?
2 Malaysian Fighting Championship 2, Malaysian Fighting Championship 3. They got him down as wins, and then to the UFC.
And then he won one and he lost one in the UFC. Can you tell me quickly who he beat and who he lost to?
So he beat Dave Galala, Yao
I think that's a Team
Zuki,
Mackay guy, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, is it? Okay.
and then lost to Ning Guan Yu. I apologise to all those people.
I apologize to all of the countries that I offended
Yeah.
in saying these.
Yeah, it's more or less right.
I mean, that's got to be as few fights to get signed to the UFC as I've ever seen. I mean, who gets signed to the UFC after 3 fights? Have you ever seen one?
But I guess back then, like
What year was that?
it was different.
2014, his
Okay,
first
2014.
UFC fight.
Might have been their first trip into Asia, like Singapore at least.
Yeah.
But I think he won like the Ultimate Fighter trials or something like
Oh,
that.
is
if
it?
I'm not wrong,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Is that what Gary did? Gary did something as well. Gary Tang.
Gary got a what do you call it? A scholarship to train at the PI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Shanghai back then.
And he went?
Yeah, he went.
Okay.
Yeah, he made a whole vlog about it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I should watch it. I
He's
didn't
telling me
realize
some of the experiences. It's really
I gotta
good
get Gary
place.
on too. Gary's awesome.
Yeah,
I like that
Gary's
dude.
awesome.
I remember when so in 2000, like two years ago, right before the pandemic began, my mom had passed away. And so, of course, I wanted to go and fly back and see her and everything. And Gary was a fucking legend. Actually, I talked to Leke. And Leke was, my business partner contacted Leke and was like, hey, man, like, Luke's got to bounce. Can we figure out a group of guys to come in and cover the classes? And Gary was one of them. That dude's awesome. I got to get him on the podcast as well. But so, anyway, moving back. I think after like 10 fights, because they are trying to build the scene in Asia. I mean, they know that Asia's got deep pockets. And if you're coming to Asia, Singapore, if you're in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong. I mean, that's pretty much, if you're in this region at all, that's going to be where you're going to go. Obviously, China, they've managed to open up a little bit with like Zhang Weili and stuff like that. But yeah, so how old are you now?
I'm 24 this year. Yeah.
Okay, so you just a couple years probably. Everything goes well, you keep training, you'd be there.
Yeah, that's the goal.
What weight would you compete at?
Flyweight probably. Yeah, but that'll be a terrible. It'll suck to cut that much weight. But
Which
I
weight
mean,
now?
I'm like 67, 68 probably.
And
After today, probably.
What's flyweight in kilos?
56.7.
So you have to lose 10 kilos.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
That one's pretty.
Oh. Although that's actually probably pretty standard.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah. I've heard some of those flyweights get up. They're big, man. Like, I read somewhere that Figueiredo probably walks like 73, 74.
Oh my god, that's my weight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's my weight. Davis Figueiredo weighs what I weigh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he's got a smaller frame than me. He's like a little dude, right? Isn't he
It's probably like
5'5"
small,
or
but,
something like that?
jacked.
Oh, I mean, he's shredded.
Yeah, it's shredded.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like to make featherweight, I cut 12 kilos.
Shit.
But, dude, come on, man, that's fucking crazy.
I'm
But
sure-
the problem is when you're lighter, it's more of a percentage
it's a
of
bit-
your body
it's-
weight.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried before? What's the lowest you fought?
I made flyweight once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How long ago? You probably put in some muscle and
It's
stuff.
like
I'm telling you this: if it was when you're 18, it doesn't count.
I was it was like 2018, so I was I think 21 maybe. Yeah. But like before that, I had like a whole string of fights. So it was a really busy year. So like that was my third fight of the year and it was in like August. It's funny because I always thought I couldn't make flyweight. Then major being major is like, hey, I got you a fight. Yeah, it's at flyweight. Like he already accepted it.
He probably knows that's where you should be.
He probably knew I could make it. I was there and I was just being a bitch. But yeah, true enough. Like I managed
It's
to
not
make
being a
it.
bitch, dude. Like, cutting weight sucks,
Yeah,
man.
cutting weight sucks, man.
It's the worst.
Yeah, I was so miserable for that cut. Yeah, but I mean, all things considered, it went pretty well. I got a knockout for that one. I think that's my like one and only like clean KO. So
What was it?
as in
What was the knockout?
Oh, left cross.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
so-
Stiffed him like straight
yeah,
back.
yeah, he
Is it
dropped.
online?
Yeah. It's at UB, I think.
Is it possible? Can you send it to Jake or can Jake search it?
I think I think
On YouTube?
Yeah, if you can search my name on YouTube, I think it'll come up.
Let's take a look at that. That should be nice and saucy.
That was also like probably the fight that I felt the most relaxed.
Why do you think that is?
Like you said, I think I just had a whole bunch of competitions that year, and I was super hungry that year particularly because I just finished 2 years of NS, so 2 years I just got fat. Barely train any martial arts, so I was looking at all my training partners just getting by, like moving up, and I was just so salty.
Yeah, you get bitter, right?
Yeah.
Those guys who used to fuck up, all of a sudden after a while they're starting to challenge you, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
man, it's
shit.
so like the white belt that there was this one guy like he was a white
You
belt.
remember exactly this
Yeah,
person.
man. Like,
It stuck with you so much. You remember
I
exactly
was
this
so
dude.
pissed because it was this white belt. He wasn't really athletic, just kind of goofy, but had some tricks here and there. But yeah, when I came back, he subbed me like 3 times in a round. And I was just like,
Go
fuck.
home,
Like,
motherfucker. You're
yeah.
sitting in bed, can't sleep, you're thinking about the shit. I know exactly what you're talking about,
yeah,
dude.
pretty much. Yeah. But-
Sorry, Kai Xiong, which one is it?
It's that ultimate beatdown.
You can throw it on the main screen so we can see, I think, Jake. And then he can
gotta
tell
find
you
it.
the thumbnail here.
Let me see.
Yeah, can you see the thumbnails? Is it one of those?
Scroll down, I think. Yeah, the fourth one. Before,
this
below. Yeah, that one.
All right, let's take a look at this. Oh, shit. How long is it?
1 minute.
Oh, let's watch the whole thing.
Oh.
Oh, I can get a beat.
Hopefully the video works this week as well.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. And the sound as well? Are you
Yeah,
hearing
yeah,
the
got
sound?
sound, got
Okay,
sound.
excellent. Okay, let's take a look at this.
So I felt like, the thing I realized from that fight also Major was telling me like knockouts don't come from like swinging like full power. I feel like you have to be nice, relaxed. So it's like a
High
whip.
kick.
Yeah.
Wait, which one are you? Are you
The taller one.
Okay. This was how many years ago?
3 years. 3 years.
Okay, oh, you got him with a nice hook there, too. And you fight from both stances, which I enjoy.
Yeah. I started as a southpaw actually.
Are you left-handed?
Yeah, left-handed.
Oh, but you also do orthodox.
I tried to mix it up because I feel like you
You
have
got a
to
nice
kinda-
switch cross, dude. I love the switch cross. It's like my favorite low-key punch that people don't throw enough. Especially if you've got a good switch kick or a good southpaw kick, you gotta mix that switch cross in there. Oh! Oh, that was it. Go back and do that again.
Let's get that replay.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, you should check this out. We're breaking down the video of Kai Xiong's knockout. Was it a left cross or a right cross?
Yeah, left cross.
Oh yeah, from the south. So you're in the open stance too. Let's see this. Oh, you caught him trying to wing a big hook.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's not having a good day. And you're like, what do I do? Do I follow him up?
Yeah. It's so I didn't expect that would be how a knockout feels, you know. I was like, doof. Then like I remember what was going through my was like, is this really over? And then yeah, I got happy for a bit. And like, yeah, I won. And, oh fuck, I hope he's okay. And then I turned around.
Yeah.
Like
It
if
is
you watch
like
the
that.
video, it's like, oh fuck, I started to panic. Like, oh shit, I hope he's okay.
No, that's a good mentality to have about it. The thing with the knockout punches is you don't feel them in the same way, right? You go through, you go straight through it. It's almost like you don't even touch.
Yeah, it feels like I've thrown harder punches in training, but it's just I don't know, it's just good. It's the timing.
The timing and the spot and the accuracy of the location, the precision, right? That really is it. I mean, I tell people all the time, like with kicks, with punches, with everything, it's way more important, like timing and precision. You, especially like as a flyweight, like the one punch knockout power where you're like forcing it, that shit will never work.
Yeah.
A lot of times with the smaller guys, it's volume. But if you land the right one, whew, then you start to get that power. But everybody can knock someone out with the high kicks, right? That's always
that's
the
true.
first thing that I try to get my young fighters to do. By the way, I got a Sapporo in the mystery box, so this is pretty good.
Is that losing or winning? I don't know at this point.
I feel like it's winning because my 7% that I just had, I'm starting to feel it pretty well. So I needed something a little more tame. But yeah, you know how it's like with and you're a person that's got really good hip dexterity. You can go to my Instagram if you want, Jake, and you can see the picture of Kai Xiong trying to head kick me that day. Pretty sure this is the first day I met you, or like within the first literally 20 minutes of meeting you. And I appreciate that about you. If I meet somebody, I want them to try to throw a head kick at me immediately. It makes me feel good. And you know, you got that like TJ Dillashaw style head kick where you throw something and you dip down and it flies up over the shoulder. I'm glad my hand was up because otherwise that could have been bad news.
Yeah, TJ's actually one of my favorite fighters.
Yeah, I can tell you try to like adopt his style. So what is it like? What are some techniques of his that you use, or what is it about his style that appeals to you?
I think it's as a whole. Like, one is it's so dynamic, like so hard to see.
Throw that up there real quick, Jake. Yeah, I mean, this is a very much, and I'm like, oh my god. You can just see. I'm trying. Should I go forward or should I go backward? That shit is aimed right for my dome. I appreciate that, dude.
To be fair, I wasn't going full power.
No. It was still controlled. Of course, we're not wearing shin pads, right?
Yeah.
And are we wearing small gloves?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
MMA gloves, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up, dude. No, we're having a good time. No, you got good control, dude. I'm just busting your balls. Even if you landed that on me, it would have been all good. But anyway, so you're saying?
Yeah, I just like how dynamic it is, and it's, yeah, like I feel like it's a complete system in a sense. Like so many feints, so much switching, and like he's not just trying to pitter patter shots. No, when he comes at you, he's really trying to take your head off, with all the different strikes and shit like that. Yeah. And actually, what gets me about him is actually not just the technique, but it's just his energy. You know, the way he approaches fights. He's always like, yeah, let's go, and it's so hype, and it's so like. Yeah.
Did you do you use any of the like the Bang system? Like, have you subscribed to him? Do you know like his setups and because he's got the online academy, right?
Oh yeah. I think
have you checked that out?
Major goes through some of that. Like he's put a lot of stuff that together, and I think he just kind of tailors it in his own way.
He's also got that kind of style. He likes to throw a lot of the TJ Dillashaw. I could see it in his movement. I mean, Major and I have been sparring together for almost 10 years or something like that. Like that dude. There's some pictures of us from like 2014 or 13 or something like that sparring. What was I going to say? I'm not trying to take this down a weird road, but how did you feel when he popped for EPO? Not good, right? It's not a good look.
It was like...
It's like, come on, bro!
Yeah.
Everybody, I feel like, felt like that.
It's kind of sucks because I think at that point in time, he was like really like on the way to like bantamweight GOAT status at least. Then he got popped and then just disappeared for... I mean, he had no choice. I mean, he got suspended and all that, but shit, man, even coming back, he looked pretty good.
He looked really good
Right?
against
Sandhagen.
Sandhagen.
Yeah.
That fucking fight was crazy. That's one of the
fucking
best
awesome.
fights of the year. I'm a fan of Dominic Cruz, so so I mean, they had that razor close fight. That was one of the best bantamweight fights of all time. Like literally, no one won that. Nobody lost that fight.
Yeah.
But you know, he's kind of Dominic's got a rough go. Hey, I think he's still my bantamweight GOAT. But if TJ wins again, he'll be a 3-time champ.
Yep.
Even though Cruz beat him, you might have to give it to TJ Dillashaw. But man, I want to see that TJ Dillashaw Jose Aldo fight. Bad. I'm getting an erection just talking about it, man. I want to see it so bad.
But I feel like it's
we lost it both. That's good. Your camera looks pretty good still. Okay, not bad.
But I feel like stylistically it's a bad matchup for Aldo. Because Aldo's kind of like Hannah Barrow in that sense. It's like big, explosive, but bites on a lot of feints. Like, and I feel like the
And he's the best fainter in the UFC. I think him and
exactly.
Adesanya, Dillashaw and Adesanya, they're the best fainters. I actually think when Adesanya fought Blachowicz, he fainted too. You know, because the point of a feint is to like get the reaction and then capitalize on it. And you watch some of his early rounds, he was just like 80% of it was feinting, and then he would get the reaction. Blachowicz would bite on it, but he couldn't punish him for the reaction, right? And that's the hard part with the feints is actually like diagnosing the tell, like getting him to bite on it and then punishing him. And it's really hard to do, right? Feinting is one of the low-key, most underrepresented skills that you have to learn. Like when I do my shadow boxing, it's like 80% feints. Because that's when you really need to do it. Because you know, like if somebody has a bad feint, you don't get full range of motion, right? Because with a feint, you want it to look exactly like the strike. And sometimes when people fake, it's too quick. It doesn't look like a real feint, and it's really hard to disguise a feint exactly like the strike that you're trying to throw, so that people can't distinguish the difference to it.
Yeah.
And when I spar with you, and that's always my immediate sign of like somebody who's a experienced striker is actively seeing them feint. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what's up. That's seriously, that's my first cue that I know. Like, okay, this guy, because he's trying to trick me. And once someone's trying to trick me, I'm like, okay, now we're playing a real game. Because when you go with the beginners and stuff, they just throw stuff. They're just throwing it. They're not setting it up, and they're not getting reactions and making reads. And that's really when you start to go to the higher level of striking, I think. What are your favorites? Do you have any favorite setups and feints that you do?
Like you were saying, I like to fake to the body and come up with a high kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that always catches people off guard. Yeah. And when that lands, I think I had it land clean once in a fight, but I don't think it's online. And the guy just like, he dropped.
So what was the feint? Do you remember?
Because I was primarily southpaw back then, so I threw a left cross to the body and I came up the head kick at
Yeah,
the
same
time.
side, right?
Yeah, then
that one's good. I love that's my favorite feint too. If I'm trying to set up the high kick, because especially when you throw it on the same side, people always think it's going to be left, right. So if like you throw that rear straight to the body and then the head kick comes right,
so
that's a
good.
classic TJ Dillashaw as well.
Yeah, exactly.
He does that to a lot of people. Yeah, man, that's what's up.
But actually, I'm just glad Major, like he should, because I've been with him more or less since day one. So like halfway through, he started showing me all this neo footwork, feinting, stuff like that, and I just it's been a couple of years, but like I made it I took that time to like kind of adopt it to my own style and stuff. So it's been like really really smooth for me.
Yeah, you really have to do that, and that's why it's like I can't just stress enough how important it is to. There's nothing in there though. That's okay. You're about to go into the mystery box again. I see that you're almost finished with your beer. That 10% is I don't know how many's left. It might be on you, bro. It might be on you next. And I mean that's a massive benefit to staying with the same coach. I mean, of course, if you like at a certain point, you feel like you're not vibing with your coach or whatever, then you change to a new one, right? But there's something to be said for having somebody really, especially if you want to be an MMA coach or an MMA fighter. And I see it all the time, like, especially like Evolve, and not to shit on Evolve because I trained at Evolve. The coaches there are great. Like I have no issue with them, right? The facilities are amazing. The coaches are good, but they all have that compartmentalized style training where like the Thais teach you Muay Thai, the Brazilians teach you Jiu-Jitsu, and then you go and maybe there's an MMA coach who kind of tries to put it together, but you're not in charge of the day-to-day stuff that they do when they're not with you. And realistically, you want to create a whole system from somebody who knows the whole in and out rather than like I can't control what another coach is teaching you. And maybe if they're better in some areas, then you still want to have some of that, but you need the one guy, the mastermind, putting the whole thing together. And you can have these other coaches and still go to them and do the thing. But especially if you've got an experienced guy who really knows what they're doing, god damn, that's so valuable. Especially for MMA because, like I can. There's definitely better gi coaches than me. There's just no question. Like there's better. Like if you bring a Thai into Singapore, like there's no question they're a better like Muay Thai coach than me. But if you want to put it all together, there's only a few people in Singapore that you can go to who've really done like MMA training. Major, of course, being one of them, and me too, because I've done MMA since the beginning. I always did like you. I did everything from the beginning. So if you go to those specialist routes, there's definitely better people than me. But the Brazilian who's never taken off the gi doesn't know how to combine the striking and the grappling, and the Thai fighter who's never done jiu-jitsu doesn't know. And then if they both pull guard and they don't wrestle, then that's a whole other element. And then combining it all, that's a whole different animal. So if you want to go like really train and learn MMA, you should go to an MMA specialist. And how many are there? There's like maybe four MMA specialist coaches in Singapore. Major, me, Cassiano, this guy from Tricolor.
Yeah, I've trained with him. Yeah,
he's another guy who I like him a lot. I just met him actually when we did the fights. That was the first time I ever met him. And I got to chatting with him, and he was telling me all these stories. And he's not like a pure gi guy. And I'm like, wait, you're Brazilian, and you're not only a pure gi? It just like blew my mind for a minute. And he's like, oh no, I'm mostly MMA, and he does this and this. And I'm like, dude. And he also is really cool with his students training in other places. And I'm like, wait a second. You're a Brazilian who doesn't specialize in the gi.
Can I see that passport?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't mind if your students go, like, it's not going to be a turf war if your students go somewhere else? My dude, this is my guy.
And on top of that, he has that Guinness World Record.
For the burpees?
Yeah, man, fuck. He did like fucking
what
5 million in an hour or something.
Can you find out what that was? Jake, you might, I don't know, Cassiano. I think I'm friends with him on Instagram. So if I don't know if my Instagram's logged in there. This might be a tough sell for you to find. But he did some. You know how many hours it was? It was great.
I think it was 1 hour.
How many?
1 hour.
Oh, he did the most in 1 hour. I mean, Yeah, he told me he trained for that for like months and months and months. So this guy, he's a Brazilian guy in Singapore. He's a coach at Tricolour.
I think I've actually got it.
Oh, you found it?
I could be wrong, but I think he's looking to beat that record again.
Beat his own record, or
Yeah, for that.
So hang on, here we
oh,
go.
the Challenge Asia pick it up?
So Cassiano Rodriguez did 951 burpees in an hour to raise funds for his niece.
Man, 10 burpees are tiring, let alone fucking
like,
950.
I can maybe do one.
So who's the best math skills? How many is that per minute?
Lots.
Divided by 60.
I'm not. There's a reason why I'm we have a phone. What can we do here? I'm not going to embarrass myself.
I would say like 15, 16?
Per minute for an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's the total, Jake?
951.
15.85
Oh, shit.
per minute, every minute for an hour. Yeah, I mean 15 and I'm done. Oh, I've exceeded my max limit. So yeah, that dude's a beast. I got to make sure I tag him in the podcast because I want to have a beer with this dude. I like him a lot, and he's actually pretty close to us. He's in like beauty.
Cashew. I
Cashew
think.
area.
Yeah, Cashew.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the closest gyms to Stronghold. Really nice guy. I got a few students that go up there, had to do some open mass and stuff like that. I really enjoy talking to him too because he's a guy that does everything as well. He teaches the striking, the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, and the kids. He taught the kids for a while, and we were telling stories about both of us like sleeping in the gym when we opened up our gym, and a guy that really puts the work in, right? He really fucking made it happen, and he was telling me all these crazy stories because he moved here during COVID. Yeah, and then tried to open up a gym during COVID, which I can relate to, having opened up a gym like 3 months before COVID. So the struggle is real. Cassiano, he's the one I got to get on the podcast. I really enjoyed talking to that dude. Yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy. So my point is that there's only a few actual real MMA coaches in Singapore. How long have you been coaching? What's your feel on coaching? Does it stimulate you in the same way that training does? Or is it like would you see yourself being more of like the fighter or more of like the coach?
Right now, I would say fighter, but I don't know, man. Like, I haven't actually coached full on somebody to like prepare for an actual competition, but I can't imagine the stress of somebody putting that trust in you. You know.
It's almost more
Yeah.
stressful than fighting sometimes.
Yeah, I could see
Because you
that,
really
yeah.
worry about your people, man. Like, especially when you've been with them for a while. Like, it's almost the same. Almost the same. Like, Charmaine's talked to me a few times about having an MMA fight. If she has, I don't know how I'll feel about that. I'm quite certain I would rather risk myself.
Yeah, then her going.
Yeah.
Especially if something bad were to happen, and then if I'm the coach, if I feel like a loss on her is like my fault, even though it's just the reality of the thing that you're doing, right? But so I'm sure when you fight, how young were you when you met Major?
I was probably like 16, I think.
Fuck, I mean, dude, you're
yes.
basically a kid.
Actually, like, if you go see my Instagram, wow, after this fight, we took a photo and it just hit me right in the field, man. Because I did like a side by side. So there's one.
Is it on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Can you pull that up, Jake?
So like the one that we just took this year, I did for this fight, and then the exact same pose like 6 years ago.
Oh,
for like my
shit,
third
yeah,
or fourth.
let's take a look
that
at that.
second one with me and Major right there.
Okay, so that's you at the most recent fight.
Yeah.
Let's see how much weight Major put on.
Wait, since the first one. I'm trying to find the other one.
You click next, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah, zoom in
It's
there.
like fucking. I think it's like my third or fourth amateur fight.
So how old were you here?
I was I think 17 or 18 probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh wow. Put that on the
man.
main screen, Jake, one more time, if you don't mind. Give me a back and forth here.
So there's young Major. Oh wait. And there's Major now.
Okay, he definitely put on some weight. Hey, listen, we get old. You know what I mean? We get mystery beer.
shit.
What did you get?
4.7.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Wait, draw
Want one
one for me.
more?
Go for it. Yeah.
Just pass it on.
okay.
Sorry, I can't
You can be in charge of his mystery beer.
Gosh, I was like 7.
Oh, what do you got
9,
there?
10.
Also,
What do you got there?
it's the last one, by the way, so it has to be the 10.
Is it?
I'm already worried because it's called Florida, man.
Oh, that's not good. That's how you know it's fucked up. What is that one? What do you got there, Jake?
8.5.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that'll do it. That's okay. You took the easy road for the first one, so now shit's going to get real. So we've got to at least keep podcasting until Jake feels this
Yeah,
one.
till I collapse and fall off his chair, we'll just keep going.
Oh, man, that's crazy. So you've been with him for 6-7 years at this point, right?
7 going 8 probably.
Yeah, that's wild. That's
Yeah.
wild, man. It is surreal, right?
Yeah,
when
it's
you
crazy,
kind of
man.
see it like in that way. But it's so nice that you've had the same coach the whole time, because then you get to develop your style, and he's also growing too. He's learning, he's learning new shit. Major's another guy. He's obsessed, right? He's always picking up new stuff.
He's a full-on nerd, man. Like when it comes to all things martial arts. Yeah.
We went to the one championship with him,
Ooh.
and I never want to watch a fight again without him. Just because he sat next to me, just talking me through everything. I was like, "Yo, this is amazing," and breaking down everything to me, move by move. I was like, "Oh, Major, can you come to every fight I ever watch with me, so I can be clever like you?"
Me and Major together at fights is literally it's like a fucking...
Yeah, I was sat between the pair. You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna be."
But that's
we don't shut up. We literally sit there, and then we realize an hour is gone, and we've just sat there and just discussed I think he's been on the podcast how many times? 4 or 5 at least? I mean, that is literally 12 hours of me and him just sitting here talking shit about fights. It's so fun, right? Especially when you get to a certain point that you really get the strategy, right? You're at that point now. You've started to develop this, I'm sure, but the tactics become so important, because the reality is, at a certain point, the skill level starts to be similar. And what I mean is, everybody knows how to do a single leg, knows how to do a double leg, has rudimentary basic stand up. The subsequent skills that you need to fight are there. So how do you manage them and integrate them in a way where you can play your game and you can start to get what you want? And more often than not, that comes down to tactics. How are you going to apply? How are you going to feint? How are you going to bait? How are you going to get the thing that you want to happen? And that is that's when you get to the nuclear level of fighting, right? The real down to the nitty gritty.
That's where guys like you and Major come in, right? Where people who can really see all the different nuances across the different martial arts, combining all together. If you know just one thing, sometimes you can't see what somebody that knows knows MMA specifically can see,
And you get and the other thing is that, because at a certain point, when you're a beginner, you get have you ever heard the term newbie gains? With weightlifting or something, you get the newbie gains, right?
That exponential growth at the
you
start.
get that exponential spike at the beginning of skill development. But when you've been doing it for 10 years, man, you're now at the extreme ends, and getting development on the extreme ends is so difficult. Gaining 1% when you're 10 years in and gaining 1% when you're a beginner is so different. And then finding a way to build the skills, and then so gaining that 1% is really hard. So it becomes a game of tactics. How do you implement your will? And TJ Dillashaw, for example, is one of these guys who's got just fantastic tactics. You see him adapt. The Cody Garbrandt fights, when he got dropped early on, and it's happened several times, right? And you see him change tactics in the middle of the fight and find the areas where he's strong. Henry Cejudo is probably the best. Ooh. That motherfucker, I don't know what he does, but first of all, he's a winner. That guy is just a winner, the ultimate winner of all. Him and John Jones. And then to see him adapt mid-fight, that Marlon Moraes fight.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, shit, man. Fuck, he was getting, fucked up the first 1-2 rounds, and he just came back and fucking, destroyed Marlon.
And he figured it out, right? He figured out what to do. And John Jones is another one. Because he can lose some rounds sometimes early on, and you just see him figure it out. Floyd, obviously, Floyd's pretty much in control the whole time because he's so much better. But because he's a master defense and master tactician. And when you get those guys that really know, and you know what it is? It's in jiu-jitsu, when you get good enough at a certain skill, it doesn't mean you can always apply what you want, but at a certain point, there's only so many things you can do, right? If I'm mounted you in no-gi, there's only so many moves you can do. You can hip escape, you can bridge roll, you can upa, you can fucking kipping escape. There's only so many escapes that you can do. The actual avenues that you have are limited. And if you know the reactions each time, it makes it very predictable what the person is going to do. The same thing is true if you're on someone's back. If I have you in a seatbelt on a back, I can go to the overhook, I can go to the underhook side. I get 2 sides to go through. And then if I start to choke you, you have to defend the choke. There's only so many movements you could do. So the pattern becomes very predictable. And when you can manipulate the pattern because the variables of your resistance and your escapes are so slim, there's really only so much shit you can do. Right, and that's when you start to become a master, because you've narrowed the field to the point where your reactions are only capable of being a certain amount, and you can manipulate it and then really start to get gains in it. It's Gordon Ryan does this better than anybody. He's just so many steps ahead, and he knows like there's only so many reactions that you can do that it just literally people look like a fish out of water. But the problem is MMA is so complex. It's so much more complex that boxing's the same way. This is why Floyd can. This is why there's really no, with the exception of John Jones, so far, there's no undefeated MMA fighters because the amount of variables in an MMA fight is just so huge compared to training something in isolation. So that's why I think Cejudo he trains only MMA. What do you think about that? Guys that like only do MMA training. They're not going to gi. They're not going to no gi. They're not wrestling practice anymore. They're only doing MMA for all of their training sessions. Like, what do you think the value of that is in comparison to the value of, let's say, like again, training in isolation and then trying to build those skills?
I think it's a bit of opportunity cost. I mean, it makes sense. Like you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do, right? But I think there is value in like sometimes compartmentalizing it.
Especially in the beginning. Right, like in your early
correct.
training,
You need that like fine tuning for those specific things. Yeah, it takes the pressure off for you to kind of develop a little bit more. But yeah, I think at that level, like if all you're doing, I think because he has so much experience, also that's probably what he can do. Like Valentina does the same. Like she only trains or she only likes to train like full MMA, but at that point like you're so experienced, you know what your style is, your game plan is. So at that point you're just kind of rehearsing what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, Valentina, Henry Cejudo, like, I mean, come on. You're right. You do need to build the subsequent skills, but I mean, if you're gonna figure out the prototype of an MMA fighter, I mean, you couldn't go wrong with either one of those people.
But do you think like this thing about like decision making and like fight IQ, right? Do you think it's something you're born with, or do you think you can kind of develop it? Because I feel like the amount of fight IQ that John Jones has, like, I don't see how you can teach that to somebody. To be honest.
Well, I think the fight IQ you definitely have to develop. But something that you can't train and people seem to be born inherently with, is certainly athleticism and fast twitch. You know, that you're just born with that. You're just born differently. Like, I mean, look at John Jones' family, for Christ's sake.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
When he's the least athletic of his family.
yeah, and he talked about getting beat up by his brother and shit. For both of his brothers play in the NFL. Both of them are Super Bowl champions. He's the greatest fighter of all time. I mean, dude, you can't teach that. Come on, man. But the tactics you have to learn. He still has to learn how to punch and kick. He still has to learn. You know, there's so much nuance. Like, are you fighting in an open stance? Are you fighting in a closed stance? Controlling the distance. Because you've seen a lot of fighters, you know, like Stefan Struve pops to mind, who's the tallest fighter to ever fight in the UFC, didn't know how to manage distance properly.
Mark Hunt, the shortest heavyweight, knocked him out.
Yeah, exactly.
Broke his jaw and shit.
Isn't that something? So you can have the physical skills and miss the fight IQ and these things like distance and range. These things are so hard to train. Like these intangibles, like range and distance, you can develop all the drills that you want, but man, is it damn hard to really fine tune something like range and distance and like what, you know, I teach this a lot when I'm teaching the Muay Thai classes and stuff, you know, because like if I kick you or something and I kick you in the wrong spot, it will fuck me up. Right, so learning like different and punching is of course the same way. So much of it is angles because if I kick you in the wrong angle, I'm gonna hit your elbow, I'm gonna hit your hip. Maybe you'll check it. If your weight is on one foot as opposed to the other, I can get grievously injured because you can get Chris White. You know, I mean, if I throw a leg kick at you and the weight is on your back foot, you can lift your front knee and check it and break your leg. If the weight's on your front leg, you can't block that kick anymore. And how do you develop the timing of something as subtle as where is the weight on your foot, or your front foot as compared to your back foot? I mean, dude, that takes so much training to develop the kind of nuance to learn how to strike when the opportunity's hot, when somebody can't quite defend. And you're dealing with milliseconds. Like milliseconds. It's such a mindfuck. I seriously can't think. And even the same is true in jiu-jitsu, right? Like a good example is leg locking is the new trend, right? Everybody's fucking got a boner for leg locking lately. And you see even with the competition you did, the SGI, it was like everybody was leg locking each other in that tournament.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the principles of leg locking is that you need the hands to be heavy because you need the legs to be light so that you can enter in on the legs. And of course, the reverse is true. More upper body submissions are going to be available if the weight is heavy on the legs because the arms are free. And like getting your students to understand when the opportunity is there, and the weight on the hands needs to be heavy so that way you can actually lift in and get the entries into the leg attacks that you want to do. I mean, you can literally go to the nuclear level on this shit, and that's what really makes it fun.
But what freaks me out about it all, and like you two are way higher level than I am, but like, you know, sometimes I do stuff and it happens so quickly and I've got no clue how I'm like, what? Like, how have I seen that? How has that happened? How have I got myself in this advantageous position? It just doesn't make sense. And, there's something in there in your brain that just takes over and automatically like, oh yeah, like, you know what I mean? You've not got time to spot that someone's weight is on the wrong leg, but somehow you do. It's bizarre.
Well, you can definitely have the muscle memory, right? The muscle memory can I often think of the Thai fighters like this, because I'm sure you trained with some Thais up to this point, and American wrestlers, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but American wrestlers are also like this. They're very rep heavy. Rep. Everything's so rep heavy. And they can get so good with the timing and so good with the skill that it's damn hard to beat. But you ask them why they do something like they do, they can't explain it.
Yeah.
And this happened to me with jiu-jitsu, because, I did jiu-jitsu for like 12, 13 years before I started to understand why things are the way that they are. And, like the John Danaher videos did a great job of like, because you're still taught correctly in most cases. So you're taught how to do it in the right way. But getting them to explain why you do it that way is the hard part, because they can often know what's right and wrong, but can't explain why it's right or wrong. And this is the benefit of being like a teacher, is you try to parse that shit out. I've been really big, actually, because we have the competition coming up tomorrow. So last week, I've been talking about levers and wedges, right? It's one of the most important parts of jiu-jitsu. It's a fundamental principle. And I would do it and understand it, but I wouldn't know why I had to do it the way that I do. So, for example, let's say you're taking an armbar, right? If people, how people have a shitty armbar and they flare their knees, right? They don't know how to pinch and create the tight wedge around the arm. And if you watch people do an armbar poorly, if their knees are wide, they can bridge their hips all the way to the ceiling, and they won't get the break or they won't get the tap. They can have it, but the knees are flared, and they bridge their hips, and they're like, I don't understand why I can't get the tap. But the reality is, the tighter the wedge on the object, the less force you need to apply the brake. So the more you pinch your knees on the, if you get people with a really tight armbar, they can literally go boop. They can bridge like a tiny amount, and you're like, ah, shit. And then but you can also have people that have bridging their hips all the way to the ceiling. They got no more space to bridge, and they won't get the tap because they don't understand the concept of wedges. And if we take the armbar as an example, if I have you in an armbar and I'm sitting up trying to pull your arm, right? And I'm pulling the middle of your forearm. You can connect your hands, and I can use my entire muscle to try to pull you and break that grip. It won't happen. Why? Because I'm controlling the middle of the lever. I'm not controlling the end of the lever, which would be the thumb. If I get a hold of your thumb with a small amount of force, I'll break that grip every time because I'm controlling the end of the lever. And that's where the maximum leverage comes from. So if you combine a concept of a lever and a wedge, very easily you can break people's grip, and with a small amount of force you can bridge it and get the break. And this applies to everything, right? Like if I'm going to do like let's say I do like an underhook sweep from the half guard, right? I get the underhook, I want to pick your far ankle and your far knee. If I try to pick you in the middle of the thigh, I'll pull that all day, you can sprawl your knee out. But if I grab your knee or I grab your small toe, that's maximum control of the leg. I can easily pull you over. And I did that because I was taught how to do it, but I didn't understand the concept behind it. And then once it was explained to me, it's like, boom, it's like clarity. It's like, oh shit. All this stuff crystallizes in your head, and your years of training finally matches with some fundamental concept that you learned. And it's just like, boom, it becomes crystal clear. And it's like, oh my God. And then you can apply that to all of the stuff that you learned. And it's really a fucking game changer, right? Because then you can apply it to so many other moves. And that's why teaching principles and concepts is so much of a faster path to mastery rather than teaching like a move in isolation.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that's basically Kit Dale's video. That's what it is. He never really goes for a move or anything like that. He's like, right, this is the concept. Like, you're talking about leverage. So this is how leverage works. Apply it to your game. You're like, oh yeah, wicked.
But once you have the technical skill, and then it's like, like even learning a math problem or something. Like, I'm sure we all studied math when we were at school, maybe way back in the
not
day.
so much.
If you're me. But you know what I mean? Like, you can be sitting there and you can do it and you can do it and you can do it and you have all this subsequent training, and then one day it will just connect in your head, and then it's just like boom, the glass breaks, and then all of a sudden you have this like moment of eureka, and you're like, oh my God, everything people have been saying to me all these years finally makes sense. And when you get those breakthrough moments in martial arts, it's just a goddamn beautiful thing to witness. Sometimes when you teach people and you just word it a certain way, and all of a sudden you see they're like, oh, and you're like, yes, fuck yeah, you finally see.
Yeah, that's the beauty of martial arts, right? Like, so many variables, but you just need that one thing to kind of connect it all together. And I think that's like the shift in like teaching methodology, like right? Like the old times was more like repetition, but now it's more like concepts and efficiency. Yeah, pretty much.
And especially when like people, it's so new. Like jiu-jitsu's only been around like globally for fucking 30 years. So it took so long for these actual concepts to develop and people starting to draw the line between all these different moves. You know, the same thing can be true for striking. Like once you learn how to like turn your shoulders and shift your weight into a strike, and you learn how to punch with your body instead of your arm, for example, or you learn how to turn the kick over and put it perfectly, and the hip turns, the shoulder turns, whap, and the hand comes up to block, and you're the first. I remember the first time I learned how to kick properly. It was like in 2013. I was training with Crew Noi, and I was just shadowboxing because he always made a shadowbox, and I threw a kick, and my body did it right, and I felt it. Like I've been taught how to do this kick so many times, but my body did it and my brain connected, and I was like, oh my God, I just threw the first. This is like 7 years after I've been training, by the way. I'm a slow learner. But finally it hit, and I was like, oh shit. I finally my body and my brain connected, and I had that moment of clarity, and I was just like, oh, that's what it feels so good when you get the breakthrough like that. And when, as a coach, when you teach someone and they get that, it's fucking satisfying, man. That's real, imparting real knowledge, as opposed to like a move. When they get a concept, it's just like, oh man, it's like winning a fight almost. You feel so good when you get that, right? I mean, you must have had something like that. You ever have a moment where something is just like, oh, it just crystallizes in your head, and you get this moment of clarity, and it just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's hard to explain because at some point it's almost like you're thinking with your body. You know, it's not really like a mental thought. It's more like getting that familiarity, almost like muscle movement, but not quite. Yeah.
It's also like both. I think it's like when the conceptual knowledge lines up with the physical training. It's like playing a guitar, right? Jake and I are both guitar players. When you start to learn a scale or something on guitar, right? And the fingers start to do it, and then you learn another scale, and then once you start to see similar patterns in music, and the scale comes in, and then you can start to freestyle, and you can start to improvise, and it's just like, oh shit! You get that moment of clarity, and the muscle memory lines up with the technical knowledge, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're improvising, you're creating something new off of the things that you've learned, and the mental understanding and the physical repetition lines up. And you hit that moment of synchronicity, and it's just like, ha! You know what I mean?
It's I'm currently obsessed by it. I don't know if you've been watching it, and we've gone on a slight tangent. Have you been watching the Let It Be, the Beatles documentary?
No, I haven't.
Oh, there's just a mad bit in that sort of ties into what we're saying. That Paul McCartney's just stood there, like, and they've not got enough songs, and like, shit, what do we do? And Paul McCartney just sits down with a bass and basically writes "Get Back" on the spot. And it's like, where does that come from? And it's the same thing in MMA of like, when you suddenly hit something and you're like, well, where did that come from? Because I don't think that was me, but I've just done it. Like,
it's just the divine,
so
divine, creative, improvisational thing that happens with tons of training and everything mentally happening and the physical and the mental lining up in that perfect moment, and boom, the head kick lands, and you're like, oh shit! You know what I mean? You get that
and it
moment.
sounds bizarre to compare it to like writing a song and throwing the correct technique perfectly, but I think it just somehow comes from the same place.
It does it. It's that flow state. I feel like it's the flow state. Have you ever, you know how you can like sometimes the flow state hits and it's so hard to fucking capture it and like really master it, and sometimes it just isn't there. Like, you ever had those days in training where it just doesn't fucking work? And you're like, why isn't it working? And other days you're fucking rolling up everybody, and you're just like, you're vibing, and the time you teleport, and then you're like, oh, how do you master that?
It's like you're not even conscious, you're just going with it, you know?
But then other days you get in your head and you can't. And that's the thing with fighting, right? Because you need to have it on that day. And how do you fucking harness that?
You can't force it, and like if it's not there, it's really not.
You try
there.
to force it, you already fucked it up.
Yeah.
You're already a step behind once you try to force it. But you need it. And if it's not there when you need it, you're like, what do I got to do here? Isn't that fucking crazy, man?
Shit.
But there's days where like, you know, he's training, you know what I mean? But you can go 5 rounds and you're in that zone, and suddenly it's like, oh, 5 rounds up, and you're like, oh, what happened? Where did the time go? And there are those other days where every single one of those 5 rounds is just absolute
painful,
misery.
agony. Why am I here?
Doing
I
this?
shouldn't have come today. Like, this is bullshit. I mean, I always say this is one of my like teaching principles, is that I always try to get all of my guys in the flow state, because if you're if my business is getting people to come to the gym, right? Like my business is getting people to show up. They don't show up, I don't make money, right? How do you get them to show up? Well, the number one thing for me is getting them into the flow state because I need them to want to come, and you want to come if the time goes by quickly. If you come into class and you're just, especially as a beginner, white belt, blue belt, whatever, you come into class and it's miserable and you're getting smashed and you're getting wrecked, why would you want to come back? Some people are gluttons for punishment, right? Okay, those fucking people don't count. You get the Russians and shit. They'll do whatever, right?
Anyone from the Eastern Europe now?
Yeah, they're down for
It's
whatever.
built different.
They're built different. But you get the people that the trick is you want it to be challenging enough, but not so challenging. If it's too easy, it's boring. If it's too hard, all of those things will take you out of the flow state. If you're not like intrigued and mentally curious, for example, cardio is a big one. If people don't have the base fitness level, time takes forever, right?
Yeah.
Or if they're going with somebody who's smashing them and it makes them too uncomfortable. You want just that perfect ground. And if you hit that perfect state, the time goes by really quickly and you have fun. All of a sudden, an hour or two's gone by and you're like, oh shit, that was fun. Those people will come back. And so everybody I try to get, and I tell this all the time, like I literally say this ad nauseum, like if I'm rolling with you, I'm rolling with a white belt, I'm rolling with a blue belt, I want it to, you have to adjust it based on who you're going with. Because your flow state is going to be, if I fucking let you fucking submit me a bunch of times, it's not going to be fun for you because you're like, what the fuck is going on? But if I smash you into the ground, you're like, well, okay, why is he beating me up? It's hitting that perfect zone, and for a white belt and a brown belt, it's going to be massively different. And if you can teach your students to find that space for the individual person they're rolling with, everybody's going to teleport to the end of training, and they're going to be vibing, and they're going to be having a good time. And that shit is magic. That's the real shit.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to really instill that on the people that you're training with, because if you get them to be able to put each other in the flow state, it's give. It's take. I hate that smash jujitsu where you get the, like the white belt comes in and the blue belt's like, this is my perfect opportunity to submit this motherfucker 6 times in 1 minute. And I'm like, no. You get a couple of submissions, you hit your moves, and then you let them work a little bit, because then they get to work from it. And if you let them work a little bit, then they're going to feel great. And you both are going to win, and you both get to do some shit. That is the secret. And if you're running a gym or you're owning a business, if you can get those people in the flow state, they will want to come back. If it's too easy or it's too hard, they're just going to be like, whatever. Why even bother? It's a real secret, man.
That's another thing. Like I noticed specifically with combat sports, right? I don't think it happens as much in other sports, but just ego always gets in the way of like getting that natural flow state, because either you're a new guy that really just goes like 100%, almost ends up hurting people without realizing it, or like you're experienced, maybe higher belt level that wants to assert dominance, and then it just doesn't get fun. Maybe it gets fun for you for smashing somebody, but at the end of the day, like you might lose one training partner just because you keep doing that. That guy could have progressed, maybe get a little bit better if you got him into that flow state, like get a good back and forth, help him to learn. But yeah.
That is so well said, dude. I mean, that is literally like the number one enemy of my existence sometimes, is the ego coming in, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, the reality is, like, let's say I'm rolling with a white belt. None of us gain nothing from me tapping that dude like 8 times. But I still need to hit my moves, or it's not fun for me. And it has to be fun for both people. So the move is, tap him a few times, let him know you can. That will stroke your fucking ego, right? If that's what you got to do, that will stroke your ego. But then, after you show them, hey, I'm the boss, I'm in control of this, if that's what you want to do, then you let them work, and then you teach them. Like, I used to tell this to Charmaine, because when she first started teaching, she's small, she's 50 kilos, really small, and sometimes she would get like the 12, 13, 14-year-old boys or whatever, and she wouldn't like beat them a few times first. She would let them do stuff, right? And then all the other kids are watching this, and because they're young, they'll be like 10, 11 years old, they would think that the boy could beat her, which is nonsense, right? Of course they can't. So I'm like, listen, this is what you have to do. You have to go in there, and you tap him out a few times real quick. You let him know you're in charge, and then you let him work, right? Then immediately you got his respect, and then when he does stuff to you, he knows that you're letting him do it. And he also feels like you're teaching him. You're not just making an example out of him. You show him what's up. The hierarchy is established. And after that point, then he's way more willing to learn from you, because he knows now you're in charge, and anything that he's doing is because you're letting him. And that is a twofold thing, because one, it establishes your technical superiority, and two, it says, I'm trying to teach you. I could do this to you as much as I wanted to, but that's not what we're here for. And when you can establish that early on, especially with young kids, then the hierarchy is in order, everybody's happy, and then all the kids treat you the way that they should, which is somebody who's got a very specific knowledge and who's got a high skill set, and that you're coming to learn for a reason. So I tell her, like, make an example of the big kid. Go in, tap them out a few times, and then you let them work and let everybody see it. So then now they know, like, that's why I'm coming to you.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I'm not a
100%.
bully because I'm still letting you work, and we're still both. It's a back and forth still.
Places that do that though, because you get the big athletic kids coming in like first class and stuff like that, and yeah, one of the things about Stronghold is that occasionally you'll let Charmaine just let them know what's up, but they then make so much better training partners.
Because they also, when you do that, they're learning to do that to other people.
Yeah.
So that when the big kid comes in, if that's the attitude that the teacher is instilling upon the whole class, then whenever the 12 or 13-year-old that's like 10 kilos heavier than the big kid comes in, the big kid will do that to the little kid too. He'll get a couple quick taps, and then he's going to teach him.
Yeah.
And he's going to learn, like, I can't manipulate, I can't use so much weight, I can't do all of this stuff. You get your moves, and then you move on. It's an amazing thing, though, when you teach people the restraint. That really is like one of the most important, like, low-key aspects of martial arts that people don't do, is the quality of teaching somebody, like, you could do this, but you're not going to. Even if your fucking ego is like, I want to fucking, you know what I mean?
But it always seems to be sod's law though, that like when you let yourself fall in someone who's like the first class and they've just learned a Kimura, and you say, I'll give up position, I'll let them get in position, I'll let them try the move. They're like, it's always when the coach is watching. That's just sod's law. So you're like, shit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that shows a higher level of mastery, being able to restrain yourself as compared to smashing somebody. I think that really shows like how good you are, I guess. Yeah.
And that your ego is in check.
Yeah, and then your ego is in check. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I let people pass my guard all the time. You know how many times the Brazilians let me pass their guard? Fucking never. Ever. Even if they could. Dude, when I roll with those guys, especially the competitive ones. It's not just Brazilians. It's plenty of other people, right? I'm just using this as my personal story, right? And every time that I would do it, like, I just felt like a fucking, like, I was just an object used for their destruction, right? And it was, in my opinion, unnecessary, because I feel like that there's just better ways to learn. And I don't regret having done that, because it does teach you certain lessons. I just feel like there's better ways to do it. And it is that understanding of restraint and understanding that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Right? And it's really hard when the ego flares up to do that. But once you have mastery of that, you're just a way more peaceful person in general. Like, I let people pass my guard all the time. I'm not like, ooh, you can't pass, you know? But maybe if somebody passes my guard when I'm really actively trying to do it, I'm like, okay, now it's on. That will still happen.
Now you got problems.
But I'm not going to impose it on people who aren't ready for it or who don't know what it is. Right? Like, if I'm sparring with somebody for the first time, I'm not going to throw a hard fucking low kick. Or, like, hurt them, hit them to the body way too hard because they're not ready for it and they don't know what's happening. Like, heel hook. Once I teach people a heel hook, even if they're white belts, everybody can heel hook in my gym. My only rule is, one, don't do it to somebody who doesn't know what's happening, because they might turn into it and hurt themselves. And two, don't do it to somebody who's not ready for it. As long as they're ready for it and they know what it is, then you can start to do these things. But if you impose it on somebody who's not ready for it and they don't know what's happening, then you're a fucking asshole. But, you know, like, when you get better, you want hard rolling, you want hard sparring. You will build to that point where you enjoy it more when it gets a little bit harder. But just don't force it on people who aren't ready for it, because it really just means you're a cunt.
Well, unless, say, you're in a pro fight and you crucifix someone who clearly doesn't know how to get out of it, Kai Xiong.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, but that's a fight, man.
Yeah.
You're in a fight. You
It's
gotta
kill
do
or
what you
be
gotta
killed.
do. That's
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
it. You sign up for that shit. Yeah, that's a scenario where you're off. This is what I tell people too all the time. Hey, you want to fucking bro down? You want to throw full power shots? Do it in the fight. The training's not the time. Your teammates are not the person to experiment with full power punches. If you do that, you're a dick. You want to do that? We can set it up. No issue, man. I can get you to fight in a few months. If you want to see what it's really like, then you go do that, because if you're throwing a 100% shot in training, you're missing the point. Especially, these are your people. Like, we're one team. As soon as you do that, you're done, man. Like, you're missing the point of this, right? All right, I just heard the camera beep. Let's finish this thing up, man. We've cooked it here. This is almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right on. So, Kai Xiong, how was this, bro?
Yeah, it's fun, man.
Good stuff,
First
right?
time.
Wait, press the
on
button,
a-
otherwise
like
we're going to get graphics and not Kai Xiong's final thoughts.
Okay. I think it should be recording, huh? All right, well, let's fucking bag this thing, dude. Kai Xiong, this was good. You came on the podcast with Tiffany and shit like that, but I'm glad we got to sit here
Yeah,
and,
it's
and,
fun, man,
and
yeah.
do one. It's fun, right? The time, again, you hit the flow state. The time just teleports. Throw out your social media and all that shit so we can go get another beer.
Yeah, so I'm at the real Kai Xiong. Yeah, I made it like years ago, but it's still. I guess it will be. I hope one day, like, I'll be big enough to actually be the real Kai Xiong.
Just take out the real. Okay, and maybe a look March, April.
Yeah, hopefully,
Getting
man.
back in there,
Yeah,
dude.
that'll be
Getting back
fun,
in there.
man. Yeah.
All right, everybody, and Jake, the sign off with all the new equipment. How you feeling, dude?
It's been stressful.
Well, you will be
I
a
just
master.
hope it's actually recorded this time and it's not just a blank screen
Yeah,
again.
that's what we're really hoping for. All right, everybody, this has been the Stronghold Podcast. I think this is episode 62.
Damn.
7 more till it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think this is a blue belt? Do you think I'm a blue belt? Are we blue belts in podcasting yet? What's the number?
I'd even go with all this equipment. I'm going 1 stripe blue belt.
Oh shit! All right. Did you just give me a stripe, Jake?
I just promoted you.
Oh shit!
No, because right. I am amazed that I came round and you were like, "Oh, I've plugged it all in." I was like, "Oh fucking hell, here we go." But
it
you've
didn't work?
actually done it.
Hey! I just officially earned my stripe.
So I'm promoting you. You're getting a stripe from me.
You know what? I like this role reversal, Jake. You need to promote me more often, bro.
Seems like the meta to a good podcast is having a bald host that can speak. You got Joe Rogan, you got got Fuzz.
Hey, bald is beautiful. We got beers. We're bald. We're rocking here. Everybody, thank you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. You can find this on Apple. You can find it on Google. You can find it on Spotify. And, of course, hopefully, assuming the video doesn't fuck up this time, you can find it on YouTube. And if you like that stuff, it means the world. We really appreciate everybody who's listening. This is the Stronghold Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Done?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is